guys, today we're in the kitchen to do some cooking throughout December to help everybody get ready for the holiday season. Today we are going to be making my favorite cookie. It is salted caramel chocolate chip cookies, and they are so good. So with the salted caramel chocolate chip cookies, basically you can use any chocolate chip recipe. So if you have your favorite, definitely go for it. The one thing that's very important with this is they need to be the type of chocolate chip cookie that doesn't mush out flat when you are cooking it. They need to stay quite round as a ball so that you can push in the middle. So my recipe, 3 cups flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon baking soda, which is already in there. And you kind of whisk that together and then set that aside. I think that's probably whisked enough. We're not going to bore you with all that stirring. And then we're going to go over to the electrical outlet and start on our buttered part. For the next step, we've got 1 cup of butter in our dish already. Room temperature, slightly softened. If you don't have it room temperature, you can do for about 20-25 seconds in the microwave, but you don't want it runny. So we're going to beat that till it's kind of fluffy, and then we're going to add 1.5 cups of packed brown sugar and 1/2 cup of regular sugar, and we're going to beat that for 3 minutes. So again, not going to bore you with those details. We'll come back once I've got that beat up and ready for the next step. We are preheating our oven at 350 or 350, I guess I should say. So once that's ready, hopefully we'll be ready. The one thing that I should have mentioned at the beginning is you want your eggs to be taken out ahead of time at room temperature. Now, we actually keep our eggs at room temperature all the time because our eggs are always out. But if you do keep them in the fridge, be sure to take them out. I don't really know the whole ins and outs of why that's important. I think it makes a lighter, softer, fluffier cookie dough. We've done that. So now we've whipped or beaten our sugar and butter. Been a little over 3 minutes actually. So now we're going to add our 2 eggs, farm fresh. Yum. Look at them nice dark yolks. And 3 teaspoons of vanilla. So we're going to put those in. Here we go. Looking pretty good and mixed in. And now we're just going to slowly add a bit at a time until my beaters can't handle it anymore. Maybe we'll do it. Rather than making a mess, we'll just do it by small increments. So, a little bit at a time, and work her in. Kind of doesn't look like it's going to be wet enough, but it usually is good. We're going for it. Alright, we're going to just get my spatula here, make sure we got enough moved in here. Last but not least, we're adding chocolate chips, which is a really quite funny story because it's 2 cups of chocolate chips, and last night we decided we needed a chocolate fix, and I made brownies which have a couple of chocolate chips in them, and so this morning I was short chocolate chips for this recipe. But luckily I had dark chocolate chunks. Never made these cookies with chunks before, so they may not go quite as nicely round as, you know, in the past, but it's still going to be chocolatey good. So we're going to go for it. You work with what you have. But we'll come back once I've got them on the tray and ready to go into the oven. So one last thing I forgot to mention before you get rolling these out, which I actually did start rolling them out and getting them on the tray before I remembered, is you want to put 2 more tablespoons of flour into this and just work it in by hand. So 2 tablespoons in there. And basically that is something that helps keep these cookies from spreading out on the pan, you know, to keep them ball shaped, not going all flat. So now we will roll them out and get them ready on the pan and get them baking. Alright, so there we have our cookies rolled out on the baking sheets ready to go. The recipe actually made 3 dozen, not 2 dozen like I'd previously mentioned. Slip up on my part. I knew it always made more than 2 dozen, but I thought it was supposed to be for 2 dozen. Anyways, so there we are. We've got another cookie sheet there, and I've got 12 more in the bowl. So let's get these baked. We need to cook them for 9 to 11 minutes in the oven, and then we'll go to the next step. All right, so we are another batch cooked up. I've already taken one out of the oven. We're going to set those there. They just need 1 second, and we will pop the other bunch in. So, right after you take them out of the oven, I use my wooden spoon, because if you use your thumb, these are very hot. Want a pretty big end on it, and we're just basically pushing a hole in the centers. That is where our caramel is going to live. And this is why you want these cookies to say, see how these stayed quite round, I guess. I don't know. They didn't melt down and flatten out. That's important if you want something to put the caramel in. There we go. So that's that. We're going to let those cool for a few more minutes before we take them off the tray. You can see our other batch here is already on the tray cooling off. So while that's happening, we're going to start melting down our caramels for the middle. Basically nothing too fancy. You just need a pack of your Kraft, let me get the whole label on here, Kraft caramels, classic candy. You want to put 24 of them into your container or pot. And you want to cook that kind of medium to high because you want it to melt pretty quick, but at the same time it's got to be timed right with my last batch to come out of the oven. So you're going to get that melting, and then we have 2 tablespoons of, now I have whipping cream. You can use half and half. I've even made it with just plain milk. Whatever you have really will work, but I had whipping cream and that will make it extra yummy. So we're going to melt these down, add the whipped cream, and then you will spoon them into those little holes we just made. So we'll come back when we're ready to do that. All right, so all of our cookies are out of the oven. Now, just because I really like salted caramel flavor, I do take a little bit of, I'm just using pickling salt. You can use any coarse salt. And I just put a little bit in these holes beforehand. I already did the ones on the rack. These are the ones that just came out of the oven, so we're going to kind of leave them until last. And then, there's my caramel, melted down with that little bit of cream in there. And we're just going to, hopefully as neatly as possible, pour a little bit into each hole. Like I say, as neatly as possible. Sometimes you drizzle around, doesn't really matter. You're just kind of filling that little divot. You have to work pretty quick because this will harden again really fast once you've got it off that heat. I did on a medium heat until it started to kind of melt down, then just put it down to low and kept stirring until those caramels all melted into the milk. This will harden off again, this caramel. Kind of basically back to the same consistency it was when it was in the little square. Next, I've melted down some chocolate, and we just kind of drizzle that on there. Try and get those cookies as close as possible so that it doesn't drizzle through. These are very, very rich cookies. Anyways, I'm not going to take you through all that. I'll finish these up, but then your final thing is just a little bit of salt sprinkled on top, which will set into those. Like that. And there you will have it. I'll finish these up after, but that is our salted caramel chocolate chip cookies. Taste test. Have to, what is that called? Quality control. Oh yeah, it's good. Win-win.